You are listening to Nightline Africa on the English service of the Voice of America. I'm your host, Peter Clotte in Washington, D.C. Coming up in the second half of Nightline Africa, the Saturday music spot from our collection of music from the continent. But first, Nnamdi Kanu is the head of the indigenous people of Biafra, or IPOB, a group agitating for what it says is the independence, who was recently released from prison after Nigerian authorities accused him of treason. He has often championed a strategy of civil disobedience to press home IPOB's demands to free his people. However, his critics say he is a rabble-rouser who seeks to undermine Nigeria's unity as well as its territorial integrity. Nnamdi Kanu joins me live in the viewing studios here in Washington, D.C. How are you, Nnamdi?
Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for having me here.
All right, so you said you want to free your people.
Yes.
What does this mean, and what does that entail?
It means the total, unequivocal extrication of the territory of Biafra from the present contraption, or should I say British contraption known as Nigeria. Complete and total sovereignty for the state of Biafra.
So you want to be independent or secede from Nigeria, correct?
We are not actually seceding. We are going back to the way we were before the British came.
So do you think the authorities in Nigeria as it stands now, one, and indefensible, or as authorities say, the separation of Nigeria is unwarranted and will not be entertained in any circumstances? Do you think your objective is achievable?
It is achievable because you would expect any dictatorial state, you would expect any backward banana republic, which Nigeria has become, to speak in exactly those terms. But what they have cleverly forgotten is that they are the instigators of separation. They are the ones making the polity ungovernable. They are the ones going about pillaging, killing, sacking villages and occupying them. They are the ones that have taken nepotism to a new and unbelievable level. They are the ones running Nigeria as if it is a private family business. They are the ones that have promised and sworn to bring Islam into Biafra land. They are the ones arming and equipping the four known terror groups you have in Nigeria to cause havoc and kill innocent people. We are not going to fold our hands and watch this continue to happen. The same set of circumstances obtained in 1966 when over 300,000 Biafrans were slaughtered in the north. That led to the declaration of the state of Biafra in 1967. This time around, we are far more prepared, far more knowledgeable, far more aware, and far more exposed to allow the same thing to happen to us again. They promised to Islamize and to colonize us, but we will not allow that to happen.
So let me ask you this. Recently, when Nigeria held elections, you made a proclamation about a support for one party or another. People say, if you want an independent state, why support a party to participate in an election that you don't believe in, that really undermines your objective of having an independent state of Biafra?
First of all, we are Democrats, and secondly, we did not advocate for the voting of any particular party. What we said very clearly is that the policies of APC, as championed by the cabal who are in charge in Abuja, is not sustainable and cannot be supported. We also wanted to demonstrate our ability to be flexible and more so to respond to the yearnings and aspirations of our elders who demanded and pleaded with us to allow the voting to go ahead. But what I can say to you is that voting in Nigeria, as you've well seen, thankfully you were there to observe it, is not only shambolic, but is an exercise in futility. Voting doesn't count in Nigeria. People voting in Nigeria is a wasted effort. All the ballot boxes, all the ballot papers, all the polling stations belonging to Biafrans in Lagos, for instance, Abuja, Kanu, Kaduna, and Zaria, were all destroyed during the election day, rendering it absolutely useless. What they have said to us is that we do not belong to Nigeria, we are not part of Nigeria. It is even a worse form of apartheid than what obtained in South Africa. Those are the conditions we are being forced to live under. Where the circumstances allowed us to participate, of course, we said we are lifting the boycott, but as you can see, regardless of what you do, the outcome is always predetermined. The Fulanis in the north will always write the results, and the army will enforce it, and the court will rubber stamp it, and that's where we are today.
Does your cause entails in engaging with the government to achieve your objective, or does that also entail uh, picking up arms against the administration or the state of Nigeria?
Not at all. We are averse to picking up arms. We are not interested in armed struggle. We believe that ideologically and intellectually that this war can be won, and won very convincingly. Therefore, there will be no recourse to armed conflict. But in terms of dialogue, you can't say no to discussing with people. If they want to discuss the terms of separation, we are more than willing to accommodate them. But one thing is obvious. We are not going to stop until Biafra is restored. Our approach of civil disobedience and making sure that nothing functions that will benefit the central government in Nigeria continues unabated. We don't intend to slacken. We don't intend to retreat any iota. And believe you me, that Biafra will come in the not too distant future. I'm very confident of that.
What does the state of Biafra mean for the people of the land?
It is the kingdom of heaven upon the face of this very earth. What we have seen and continue to see since the creation of Nigeria is a level of backwardness and regression which nobody ever envisaged. Not even those that fought the British for independence could have foreseen what Nigeria would become in some decades down the line. What you're seeing is a new level of what I call primitivity in governance, a new level of poverty, a new level of backwardness, a new level of what they have done in essence is to destroy every fabric that sustains any modern viable democracy. By any stretch of the imagination, you couldn't possibly describe Nigeria as a civilized, viable country. All the places that I've been to touring the world, speaking to policymakers and influencers, have led me to believe that no one has any hope that Nigeria will survive. And I can assure you, it will not survive. With this reign of terrorism, this brutal repression of free speech, this clampdown on the very core tenets of democracy, that there is no way that the Fulani template for Nigeria can survive the next 5 years. I do not envisage it.
Some people have said that what you are advocating invariably puts your supporters, and for that matter, the Igbo community, in danger, not only in Nigeria, but the rest of the world. How do you react to that?
We know that freedom is very expensive. We are here in the United States of America, where people fought and died and sacrificed their lives to sustain what is arguably the most civilized modern nation on the face of the earth. We recognize those sacrifices, and it is something that we're prepared to make. If ultimately, at the end of this very process, there is only one Biafran man and one Biafran woman left, we will make do with that. They can go ahead and procreate and create the future Biafran nation. What we must state very clearly is that nobody should underestimate our resolve. We are determined. My mother have just died as a result of this very effort. Many more have gone, and we are prepared to sacrifice whatever it takes to ensure that Biafra is restored. Because it's not just the hope of, say, the Biafrans themselves. Biafra will save other ethnic groups within Nigeria, and Biafra, I believe very strongly, is the beacon and the hope and the light of Africa. Once Biafra stands as an independent entity, believe you me, you will record development and progress within the wider Africa. But without Biafra, none of that will ever happen.
Some Igbo monarchs have petitioned or have requested and urged the government to allow you to come back home and give your mother, your deceased mother, a befitting burial. What is your stance on that?
My mother died as a result of the agitation for Biafra, and she made it very clear when she was alive that anything that I have to do to ensure that Biafra is restored is what I must do. And asking anybody to allow me to go back home to bury my mother is not part of that plan and is not part of that agreement. I have not asked anyone to speak to or lobby anybody on my behalf, and I will not, and I will not accept any, should it come across to me. What we are trying to say is this: I am not interested in going back to bury my mother. if that will entail the killing, disappearance, and extrajudicial torture, as they always do, against our people. We are not, I repeat, we are not going to do anything to jeopardize the lives of our people. But one thing is certain, that my mother will be buried. I may be there, I may not be there, but it will not come via the dictates or the permission of the Asoro cabal that currently run Nigeria.
Let me ask you this. Some of your critics are saying the advocates for the state of Biafra is inward-looking, is tribalistic, as they said, or ethnic state, and that you are seeking the disintegration of Nigeria, which they said is unacceptable because it questions the territorial integrity of the state of Nigeria.
Who created Nigeria? The British. Are they Nigerians? Are the British people, are they Africans by any stretch of imagination? Is Frederick Lugard an African? What they're trying to say in essence is that because Nigeria was created by Frederick Lugard, somehow it confers upon it certain legitimacy which Nnamdi Kanu, as a black African man, is not entitled to question. That's what I'm saying. We keep forgetting that Nigeria is an artificial creation. It never existed until Lugard came. There was nothing called Nigeria before the British set their foot on that part of West Africa. Therefore, what we are trying to do is to return us to the basics, to the way we were before they came. Some people have argued, and I would say not very convincingly, that we should just move on from here. The only thing you can give a name and it bears that name is your pet, either your cat or your dog. By accepting the name Nigeria, what we have done in essence is to say we are not capable of creating a civilized society by ourselves and for our people. Are you telling me I can go to Europe and create a nation in Europe? Are you remotely suggesting that I can come to the United States of America, carve out perhaps the state of California, and then give them whatever name that I like? Does Nigeria even have a meaning? Nigeria is a nigger area. That is the meaning of it. It is a nigger, a place for niggers. That's the meaning of Nigeria. That is the appropriate pronunciation. Are you suggesting that we should adopt such a name for our people? Why can't Africans come together and give themselves the name that they feel that they deserve? Ghana was formerly called Gold Coast, and they changed it because the people took ownership of their destiny. Why can't the same thing happen within Nigeria? Why? Let me tell you this. The only reason why people are apoplectic about Biafra when it's mentioned and our need for freedom is they fear for their well-being in terms of their access to oil and gas in Biafra land. All the resources that sustains Nigeria, that makes it the so-called giant of Africa, is located within Biafra. The oil and gas is within Biafra. The manpower is within Biafra. So when people talk about this fear of breaking up Nigeria, it is because they are afraid that they cannot survive on their own without access to oil and gas.
I'm not cutting you short, but we have an instance where South Sudan came out of Sudan, where Sudan lost approximately over 60% of its natural resources. It's now trying to jumpstart its economy and all that. Do you want that for Nigeria as a people? A country that has lasted for nearly 60-something years. Is this what you want for the people that you've grown up with, you went to school with, that the country is still thriving, a bastion of commerce on the continent?
But the same argument could be made for Ethiopia. You've just spoken to the Archbishop of the Catholic Church in Addis Ababa, extolling the virtues of the Prime Minister. The reason why he received the Nobel Prize is because Ethiopia is outward looking. They recognize and acknowledge all these various agitations. They also accept the need for people to exert their identity and for people to... If the idea is to ensure that economically Nigeria does not collapse, I have said it and I will also go on record here on VOA to say it once again, that we will be prepared to pipe oil and gas to every region within Nigeria. We are prepared to share the natural resources in Biafra land with all the relevant and component parts of Nigeria, to demonstrate very clearly that our agitation has nothing to do with the economic emasculation of Nigeria, but has everything to do with our right as a people to determine where we want to go to. Ours is about self-determination. And our people must... You must also know that half of the Yoruba race is in Dahomey, in Benin Republic. That is the danger of having Europeans come to Africa to draw your boundaries for you. We are basically operating in this present day Africa, the boundaries drawn up in 1884 by Otto von Bismarck in Germany. Do you think that is fair? I don't think it is. And it is the duty and responsibility of Africans to apply African solutions to African problems. The idea that you can come to Africa and just say, you, from today you are all Nigerians, I think is laughable. You cannot do that anywhere else, only in Africa. Why must we allow it?
Before we go, Nnamdi, what do you expect for your people in the next 5 to 10 years' time in this struggle to establish what you described as a Biafran state?
My expectation is that in the not too distant future, there will be Biafra. If there is no Biafra, believe you me, the consequences will be disastrous for everyone. The Middle Belt people are suffering. Even for the very first time, they are bringing their murderous carnage into the Yoruba land. I shouldn't call it Yoruba, actually. It's Oduduwa, because we've been told that Yoruba means something completely different. It's Odua. Now they have come into the West. They have pillaged and have sacked the Middle Belt. And in Biafra land as we speak, we are under attack. Continuing with one Nigeria means surrendering our land, our way of life, to an alien culture from the Sahel. It is not something we are prepared to countenance. I assure you this. No matter, regardless of what it would take to ensure the coming of Biafra, that is exactly what we are going to do. I do not see Biafra, in fact, to be honest with you, I see Biafra coming before the next 10 years. I can say that to you, very categorically. If Biafra doesn't come within the next 10 years, there will be no peace in that part of the world. Because we cannot stand idly by and watch them rape our mothers, abduct our daughters, massacre and rape at will. It cannot just happen. No sane, sensible person will be able to withstand that. Everybody knows. I don't know why the media in the West doesn't talk about what is happening in Nigeria. You have the Fulani headsmen who have come with the full and total support of the Nigerian state to wreak havoc.
The government has said that the government has stepped up efforts to increase security, bolster security in certain areas where Boko Haram and terrorist groups have been fighting. So the government is doing something about it. This is what the government is saying. Are you saying the government is not doing its job, which is constitutionally mandated to protect life and property?
Where is Boko Haram operating in the north, isn't it? Boko Haram is in the north. ISIS in West Africa in the north. Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb from the north. Fulani headsmen from the north. Only these people from the north is responsible for sponsoring 4 frontline terror groups around the world. Only them. And where do you have Operation Python Dance? In Biafra land. Where do you have Operation Crocodile Smile? In Biafra land. There is no singular military exercise going on in the north. They are running away from the battlefields. All the money that they get from the USA, all the military assistance they get from all over the world is geared towards suppressing civilian populations in the south. Nothing is happening in the north. When was the last time that VOA heard of any pitched battle between the Nigerian armed forces and the terrorists in the north? None. But they are down in the south, killing, pillaging, assisting, basically forming themselves as the vanguard for the terrorists to come in and take over. That is what is happening, and that's the reality on the ground. All the lies that the Nigerian government have been telling the whole world about how they are battling Boko Haram, we have been puncturing all of that. I've been in the US now for getting to over a week, and we've been doing a lot of work, I can assure you of that. And very soon, all will unravel. Because now, the policymakers here, in this very great capital of a very great nation, understand what Nigeria is up to. How come they gave Mietiala 100 billion naira, which roughly translated, I think, is about 800 million naira. Oh, sorry, dollars. From where did they get that money from? This is the 4th most deadly terrorist group in the world. The government themselves are actively encouraging them by paying them to go and take over lands belonging to other people.
Well, we'll continue with this discussion another time. Nnamdi Kanu is the head of the indigenous people of Biafra or IPOB. He joined us live from the VA studios here in Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much.